Hello, Allison Ziegler here, and I'm your host for today's episode of Princess Interrupted, the podcast, where we are going to be talking about all things twin flames. If you are in the midst of a twin flame experience and this is something that you're actively going through, I thank God that you found my podcast and are not scrolling some weird tarot reading telling you messages from the divine channeled masculine or some other sort of story that's being fed to you about what's going on the other half of your partnership. I don't say this to judge. I say this out of purely wanting to help you avoid the same mistakes that I made on my journey that kept me stuck and in an endless cycle of sadness and waiting. I'm going to share parts of my story just so that you know that I'm not judging you for any of what you're experiencing. In fact, my experiences with long-term heartbreak on the internet, a lot of people call it limerence, scale back to when I was 15 years old. I finally have done enough healing work and shame work, and I'm in the process of writing my book about the experience, Princess Interrupted, where I've gotten to this place where I know that this needs to be shared because it's meant to help other people. And if you are in the midst of either a twin flame experience or going through a breakup and experiencing heartbreak, I'm your girl. I've got you. I've released a free guide. It's called Pen That Pain. It's a power retrieval guide. Please download it if you're experiencing anything like this. And I am also creating coaching offerings specifically for people who are working through these things. I have a lot of tools and techniques that can help you move on significantly faster than I did. So I'm so excited that you're here. Thank you for listening. Make sure you're subscribed, like the podcast. Without further ado, let's dive in. So first things first, what is a twin flame? A twin flame is a relationship on steroids, is the way that I would look at it. I had never heard of a twin flame before I had my awakening experience. I started to look up symptoms of what a twin flame was. I was looking up like, what does it mean when you have telepathy with another person? I came across all kinds of resources detailing what twin flames were. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is describing exactly what I'm going through. I'd never experienced this kind of connection with anybody else. It was someone I had dated previously. And years later, it came and hit me in the face, and I fell back in love with this person from afar. I was not experienced in energy work or channeling at the time. This all came crumbling down around me. But when you find what a twin flame is online, it can seem really alluring and really appealing. And the way that it's described most frequently is this is a person that there's a deep soul connection. Your wounds mirror each other. There's a runner and chaser dynamic. In dating, this is more likely known as an anxious avoidant attachment style. Typically, there's masculine and feminine energies. And you can have masculine and feminine energies regardless of the gender of whoever's in this relationship. So this isn't just for straight man plus woman relationship, but even if there's two women or two men, there will typically be one partner who embodies more of the feminine essence, one who embodies more of the masculine essence, creating the divine feminine and the divine masculine counterparts. So the role of the feminine participant in the relationship likely has anxious tendencies that stem back from childhood, and the masculine counterpart, who is known in the twin flame community as the divine masculine, typically exerts avoidant attachment styles. Whenever they do this dance where they'll start to get close and then the masculine will get scared and he'll run, and then the feminine will chase him energetically, which pushes him away. So this is the whole way that this is described. And I was reading these things as I was experiencing the telepathy, and I was looking up what had happened, and I was like, wow, this is me. This is exactly what I was experiencing. So I started to go down the rabbit hole and I started to identify with this. And when you look it up online, it says that the goal of a twin flame connection is to achieve union, which is essentially coming into one with your divine masculine. This person, as described in the twin flame community, is your divine counterpart. This is your soulmate on steroids. This is your one person that you're going to be happier with than anybody else. But it's also the most challenging relationship. So you're going to have all these obstacles in order to coming into union. There might even be what's called a third party, which is someone else that your divine masculine is dating. Or you might have a karmic partner, which is someone who you're dating along your journey that you can use to gain lessons and close karma so that you can ultimately come into union with your divine masculine. What's my take on this? I think that a lot of movies and fairy tales paint this narrative of the woman needing to be saved, or the something happening like a breakup and then this person coming to terms with what had happened and coming back to you. And I don't want to discredit the connection, because if you're experiencing something like this, it's a very real experience. And I don't even want to discredit and say twin flames aren't real because I experienced it. It had been unlike any other relationship that I had ever experienced, and it also was the hardest relationship for me to move on from. But when I look at my own unique wounding and what I think ultimately happened was that I was able to project so much onto this person and make him into someone who he wasn't. And with twin flames, we're essentially immortalizing the other person. And this other person possesses so many qualities that we want in a partner. Likely they're extremely attractive, they're handsome, they're successful, they're funny, they have all these qualities. And likely dating's been a challenge. And maybe you haven't been able to conjure up feelings like this for anybody else, no matter who you've dated. And the people who like you feel like they're nice and boring. And this was a dynamic that I had found myself trapped in for an incredibly long time, again, dating back from when I was like 15 years old and I was dating. But here's the thing with the twin flame dynamic is it's incredibly disempowering to base your life's purpose and mission on getting another person back, energetically aligning for a person to be able to fall in love with you, or keeping your heart on ice and hoping that they come back. And I'm not here to shame and say that there's anything wrong with these experiences or what you're feeling. But my goal in sharing this and what I really want to help you with is I want to start shifting your perspective on your ability to move on. And I want to kind of change the narrative in the twin flame community so that we don't look at it as the goal is ending up with this person. The goal is integrating the lessons and cultivating an unbreakable sense of self-love. A lot of times what happens within the twin flame dynamic is that you're projecting love onto another person who probably doesn't deserve it, probably did nothing to deserve it, probably, if anything, is reiterating your own limiting beliefs of unworthiness, and you're putting it onto an impossible person, someone that you know can't give you what you need, and it's reiterating these deep feelings of unworthiness that you have in your heart that likely stem from childhood. We often repeat the relationship patterns of our caretakers growing up. And this does mean that if your parents were divorced, you might find yourself subconsciously playing out the same cycle or playing a similar role to the role that your mother played, the role that your father played. You might find yourself seeking out partners who mirror the pain that was caused in a generation above, or maybe even multi-generations. This isn't just a surface level rejection wound. This is a deep rooted pattern, cyclical, generational. This is something that's probably plagued multiple members of your family. I found a really hard time to move on. And I found myself worrying that I wasn't worthy of love because of this rejection. I also found it hard to trust my intuition because I looked back and I believed in that more than I had ever believed in anything in my entire life. I believed in this connection, the way that it presented itself to me, the way that I thought things were going to happen. I was so beyond convinced. I knew, I felt it in my soul. And I secretly harbored that for a really long time because I had so much shame around speaking this out loud, around believing that this was going to happen and having it not happen. I ended up confiding in a psychic, and that was the only person that I felt comfortable or safe talking about this with. And she exploited my desire for money, essentially. It got to a place where I just felt so ashamed and embarrassed, and I would be dating, but my heart was otherwise taken. I wasn't over everything that had happened. And if anything, this wound just came protruding to the surface like a volcano, and I had nowhere to turn. And I had this psychic in my ear telling me that union was inevitable. It was just a matter of time. You're destined to be together. You're destined to be together in this lifetime. It's going to work. You're going to be together. And I believed her because I couldn't afford to believe that it hadn't worked based on how much I had emotionally invested into this, even though this person wasn't in my life. I didn't talk about this for a really long time. I've been really open on the internet, talking about manifestation, talking about my journeys. But this experience itself, I really held back from sharing my story because I didn't think that people could relate. Behind the scenes, talking to my friends, a lot of people actually can relate. It's just not something that's commonly talked about. It's taboo. And we have this move on culture, and I think there's a lot of examples of TikTok dating gurus and people saying, this is how you should do it, this is what you should do. And I almost felt a hesitancy towards learning those things because I had already thought about everything that I had done wrong, and that was painful to face. So I'm coming at this from having a lot of experience, being 5-6 years on the other side of this, and My intention's not to come off as a jaded twin flame where it's like, I didn't manifest my partner, so you can't either. Any relationship worth having, it's not going to come because you manifested that person specifically. There's instances where this connection can just be creepy, and you have to take a step back and remember, in the human context, not even what's societally or socially acceptable, but in the context of get up and own your worth. You are a magical, powerful, infinite being, and you are pining over a human. I know that your divine masculine may come off as he has all these amazing, incredible qualities that no one else can ever match, but the 3D version of him is just a human. He's just a human. And you're projecting all of this godlike energy onto someone else and putting him on a pedestal, and that's going to keep you always beneath him. And that's going to alter the way that you see yourself. And I truly believe that the purpose of a twin flame is to see that light within yourself. This is a person who may give you possibility towards believing in love. This is a person who lights that inner spark within you. But then it comes to you to be able to cultivate that flame and bring it forward to where you're meant to go next. I believe that this is a person who's sent to you on your journey to initiate huge levels of deep healing in a way that you would never otherwise be able to. My twin flame came to me during an incredibly transformational period of time in my life, and I made choices that I don't know if I would have if I didn't have his energy by my side. I think that we're going to see more instances of people talking about this as the consciousness rises and as people go further down this path. But as of right now, I've been really scared to talk about this because I don't want to come off as some cooked weirdo. I understand that this is not something that everyone will relate to, but those who get it, get it. And the only way that we're going to be able to heal from these situations and move on and actually use these instances for good is standing in truth and owning our experience. Now, what I'm not telling you to do is go online and share your secrets in a way that feels unhealed or unhealthy, but I'm telling you to take a step back and reevaluate this situation from a different perspective. And instead of making the goal attracting this person into your life, I want to give you a better path and a better way. And my ask, if you want to experiment with me for a little bit, I'd like you to test out what it feels like to stop manifesting this person. I remember it was New Year's Eve years ago, and I made a promise to myself that I was done trying to manifest him into my life. I had done it previously. It hadn't worked. It was a waste of my divine life source energy, where there were so many other things that I could have focused on creating that would have had a better outcome, but I was still so convinced that getting him into my life was the only way I was going to be happy. That's what I focused on. And I'm not ashamed of it. It was a very real experience for me. I just wish that I would have used that energy in a more powerful way. I think I would be a lot further in my life if I would have been able to let go sooner. If you're still like, I don't know, like you're kind of like, yeah, maybe, what about this? What if you're not going to manifest him by trying to manifest him? What if manifesting him means actually completely getting over the situation? When I was in my twin flame experience, there was a visual that came to mind, and it was essentially two magnets in between a wall. And in this visualization that I received clairvoyantly, what was communicated to me in the moment was that letting him go was the only thing that could bring him back. I believe that is true, but I don't want you to let go of this person for the sake of calling them back into your life, because that is still disingenuous, and that's also not the energy. You have to be willing to let them go for you. Kind of like a sacrifice to show yourself how serious you are about loving yourself in this lifetime. All that love that you're projecting out onto him, you need to give back to you, because then you are going to be able to manifest any freaking thing you want. This energy, this devotion, this divine love is the most powerful frequency in the entire universe. And the second that you call this back to you and you start pouring this into your pursuits, you are going to be flabbergasted by what you're able to create. In a practical sense, dating will become fun. You won't just be dating for a placeholder until your twin flame comes again. You will actually open yourself up to receive love that you have never had before. You will be able to heal your anxious attachment style. You will be able to truly be happy for your twin flame without checking on them or knowing a damn thing that is going on in his life. You'll get to a point where you thank him for how much he's helped you. My twin flame has been a divine source of inspiration He's unknowingly been a muse. He helped me through the darkest time in my entire life. For so long, I hated him and I felt wronged by him and I was so sad and I wish things could be different. But I never would have gotten to become this version of Allison had he not been in my life. And I'm so grateful for that, even though it came with a lot of shame, because healing from that has made me so much stronger and has made life so much richer. And even if it was in the 5D or whatever, I'm grateful to have experienced that level of love. And I know that I get to have an incredible relationship in 3D human form, but it doesn't matter who it is, because I know that regardless of who I call into my life, if it's this person, if it's a different person, I know that I get to have what I want. That's where the manifestation comes into place. It's getting yourself into an empowered state before you try calling in anything. This is a lot of what we work on in my program, Align Me, where we focus on getting aligned and then we set the goals of what we're calling into our lives. It's not the other way around. Our lives don't become aligned because we suddenly call in what we want. We get crystal clear on what we're creating, and then we set goals from that place, getting clear on who we are as a person, what we're here to create, what our purpose is, what our relationship standards are. And then we decide where we're going. What are the link that has been missing in this whole twin flame manifestation journey? So if you take anything away from this, I hope that it's a complete shift in perspective of what the twin flame is, what the twin flame experience is meant to be, what you're going to gain as a result of being on this experience. And I hope that it also helps reduce some of the shame that you might be feeling on your journey. And it helps you move on. In a sense, this is the first episode that I've ever released on this. I'm going to be giving you so many more resources. Please download my free guide, Pen That Pain, a guide to reclaiming your power after heartbreak. I'm going to be leading masterclasses on this. I'm also creating special coaching containers. If you've experienced this, please set up a call with me. I would love to talk with you, love to see what resources I can provide to help you, because this isn't going away. We all deserve to thrive and be happy. I love you so much. Thank you for joining me for today's episode of Princess Interrupted, the podcast. Make sure you're subscribed, like, write a review, write a comment. I love you so much, and I can't wait to see you for next week's episode. Bye.